Hello, everyone, and welcome to Feels Like Weezer. This is the twice weekly podcast where we talk about Weezer track by track in release order. We'll get to that here in a minute. I'm one of your hosts, Zach Fracking Smith, and to my right is.
I am Eric Nash. How you doing, Zach?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. So we're both big Weezer fans. I think that kind of goes without saying, considering we're hosting a podcast about Weezer.
I
So,
I hate Weezer.
oh God, I picked the wrong co-host. We were the genesis of this was when the Tio album was released. It was kind of a big surprise. It kind of just showed up out of nowhere. And so Eric and I are both a part of the Star Wars Minute Listener Society. You know, because we're also obsessive about Star Wars. And so I made a post about it, like, oh, hey, I heard that Weezer released this new album. And I kind of jokingly said,
Oh, it's just a joke? What?
it really was, I'm not going to lie, but I'm glad it's not. So, I said, oh, well, would anybody want to do a track by track on Weezer? And then Eric chimed in, yeah, I will. I'm like, okay. That's great. And we did have a third co-host for a little while, but, just the timing wasn't going to work out for him. He actually does the intro music that you hear twice weekly.
Big thanks to Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. But yeah, and so what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be going kind of track by track through Weezer's discography. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing singles first.
Yeah, singles that are released prior to the album. There are other singles that sometimes get released after the album, and we'll just they won't matter because they'll have already been done while we've been going through the album in its order.
Yeah, don't worry. That stuff won't be undone.
Oh, how relevant.
Anyway, weird. It's almost like I planned that or something. But, yeah, so we're both, like we said, both big Weezer fans. So I'd love to hear your origin story here with this, Eric. What draws you to the Weez?
What draws me to the Weez, I think, is it's Rivers. It's so much Rivers Cuomo's band. Except, I mean, he has had some very long continuing members. I mean, founding Patrick Wilson. I mean, is which, hey, there's a little connection with my other show, Watchmen Minute. Actor Patrick Wilson there.
Hey.
So it's just, over the past few years when I've kind of, I became more aware of, that actor in that movie and that drummer that's always been with Weezer, his name is Patrick Wilson too. That's so weird. But but and they've had various other members, bassists and other guitarists and backing singers and so forth, and keyboardists too, and stuff like that have come and gone at different points. But Weezer itself, Rivers' baby, is, to me, it's just it's coming out of there in the early 90s when I was in high school. Yet I may have heard a little bit of their couple bigger songs like Buddy Holly coming up.
Right.
Definitely, the video was crazy huge, but it wasn't until then in college in around like 96 ish, and I think that's around the time Pinkerton comes out too, around there too. And definitely in the ensuing 2-3 years, it kind of just grew on me. I became more aware. Okay, yes, this was this band Weezer. I see the album cover. I just remember it there in my freshman year dorm room, and that was actually 95, 96 was that school year for me. And like on it actually might not even been my dorm room. Might have been one of my neighbors on my floor. And in there, for some crazy reason, in their entry area into their room, a first entry closet type area, and then you get into the room with the four total people sleeping in. beds and couches and TVs and what have you. But on the counter in this entry area with the closet, and there's a mirror in between some of the closets and so forth, and this counter that's there in front of the mirror, and I can just remember that the CD case, with this blue background and the four guys on the front, and it's like, what is this? What Weezer? I don't know if I've ever heard that before, but and I eventually get around to hearing that coming the whole album, and just slowly hearing it over and over again, and then finally getting my own copy of it after I'd heard it enough times. Like, I think this is pretty good. It's got some pretty catchy songs here, it seems like. And some other friends, along the way, other like classmates or something. I was in a kind of an arty major, and we'd have our studio. That's where our classes took place, but also where we'd keep stuff in lockers, and actually go there and do work outside class time hours. Access to it 24/7 practically. That room. And we'd keep, one of us at points, I kept a boombox and so forth, a little stereo system of some sort or another, and put in CDs, and other people would have that CD sometimes, and they'd put it in to my boombox or one of the other ones that would float around, and so I just heard it, and it grew on me, and I picked up my own copy, and ensuingly, Pinkerton and Green Album and a few of the others, but as of late, I've been heard many of their other albums over the years at different points. Getting my hands on them in different ways. Library or some other ways. Are out there. But for this project, that's for sure. I've gone out and have them all for my own personal collection now, which is a fun thing to really own. Have a band's whole catalog now. I've done that for Beatles and Radiohead prior to this, and Pavement too. But not too many bands do I have their whole catalogs, and I'm glad now Weezer counts among them.
It's just Weezer for me. Like, I do buy every physical CD for them, but every other artist, and the Lumineers, but I mean, they only have 2 CDs. But yeah, man, that's great. Yeah, Weezer rules. Yeah. 'Cause it feels like Weezer. 'Cause it feels like Weezer. So with me, I was I was a high school student. I didn't really start getting into Weezer until the Red Album came out, which is, to me, the second best Weezer album cover. I mean, you can't really beat Rivers with a mustache and the cowboy hat. I mean, it's a tough one to beat. Anyway, but that wasn't the first one that I heard. A buddy of mine, we would go play frisbee golf a lot, and that was kind of our pastime. And one day, we were driving out to a course, and he puts in this like burnt CD, and it's the Blue Album, and I'm listening to it, I'm like, man, this is really good. And he's like, oh yeah, it's Weezer, when we were talking about it, we were just sitting and listening and jamming. And then after the Blue Album finished, Pinkerton starts, and I'm like, okay, this sounds completely different. Is this still the same band? Oh yeah, it is. Oh, go okay. And listen to that. And high school is the perfect age to listen to Pinkerton, in my opinion, because like, oh man, did that hit me in the right spot? I'm like, I get it. I understand you, Rivers. I didn't know he was Rivers at the time, and then like half of the Green Album was also on there. So, I'm just when he dropped me off at my house, I'm like, oh my god, can you please burn me a copy of this CD? I need to have it. And so, he burned me a copy, and then it stayed in a continuous loop on my car, in my car stereo for a good year. Just those 2.5 albums. And it's just what's great about Weezer, especially for me, is that I'm a huge dork. I've got the Cuomo glasses and everything that before I knew that it was a Rivers signature. and I related so heavily to the Blue Album, and Pinkerton too when I was in my lovesick days. But it's it's good to hear kind of like that nerd rock, that nerd garage rock. That's what I kind of call.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I categorize Weezer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's nice to feel like there are people out there who are so successful, who are just like me. And I picked up pretty much after that. I picked up every Weezer album on release day from there on. Um, I picked up the Red Album shortly after, uh, and haven't looked back, man. I've been there through
Cool.
the worst ones. Ratitude. Um, Hurley was okay. We'll talk more about that in the future. But yeah, that's like I said, Weezer rules, man. Well, if that's all we've got, I was Zach Fracking Smith. You can follow me at the Informal Log on Twitter.
And I was Eric Nash, and I'm at Lucky Mustard on Twitter. And you can also find my other couple podcasts, Watch My Minute and upcoming Almost Famous Minute. They're part of the Movies by Minutes community at moviesbyminutes.com. Go check that out. And as Zach mentioned earlier, Star Wars Minute, definitely they're the godfathers of the movie by minute genre. But then also they went off and did alphabetical as well, which is we got to give a little props to that show. And there's also ABC Devo, and there's Ramones of the Day out there.
Oh God, that's
and there's
a bad one.
Prince track by track as well. And hopefully I'm not forgetting any that it was right there. There's one.
I believe in you.
I feel like
You can do this.
We'll have to give it proper respect later.
Yeah, there we go. It's so important that we have to devote a whole episode to it. Yeah, and you've been guests on
doing something similar.
some other Movies by Minute as well. So if you
Yeah.
if you do follow the Movies by Minute people, you'll hear recurring voices, and Eric is one of them. So stay tuned here on the feed. We'll be dropping the first episode relatively soon. I throw in relatively because we don't know when that'll happen. So
hopefully, roughly a couple weeks after this. I think a couple weeks is your good number for.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks, we'll be dropping episode 1. So keep to the feed, and we'll hear from you soon. 'Cause it feels like Weezer. Okay, goodbye.
Bye. I'm waving.
Yeah,
I'm waving.
Goodbye. You hear the door shut, and Eric driving away on his motorcycle. Thump, thump, thump. Okay. All right. Goodbye.